So, Len, I'd like to start with you because this is really kind of a Democratic issue in Maryland, but there's going to be an opening for a new speaker for the Assembly. And this is probably one of the most powerful positions in Maryland politics. And I'm sure you have an opinion, but give us a sense of what's going on.
So I don't think we have an opening anymore, Dave. We had an opening, and as much as we were expecting a competitive process for the privilege of replacing Adrian Jones as Speaker of the House, but it seems like the contest to succeed Speaker Jones really ended before it got started in earnest because the other possible contenders for the position have all coalesced around Joseline Peña-Melnyk, a delegate from the 21st Legislative District, which is basically Laurel and surrounding communities. So she represents that part of Prince George's and a small sliver of Anne Arundel County. I've not worked with her so much on the legislative side. We've done some politics together, and years ago I worked for a candidate who tried in vain to get her on his ticket as a running mate. So we've known each other on and off through the years, and I just cannot say enough about her intellectual and her legislative and her personal qualities. She is smart. She is issue focused. She is relentlessly collaborative with her colleagues on both sides of the aisle. And I think that the enthusiasm that she has inspired among her colleagues can be seen in the number of people who have taken to social media to express their admiration for her. And that what's some of it is, is perfunctory and ritualistic, but most of it you can tell it's just genuine, heartfelt joy that a woman that for whom they have so much personal affection and respect is going to be leading the House of Delegates into a new era. And she is more progressive, and I know that we primarily serve a rural, more conservative audience here. So I will say that there will be times when our viewers and listeners disagree with Speaker Peña-Melnyk, and I just love saying that, Speaker Peña-Melnyk on issues. But one thing I can assure you, nobody will ever be able to question her motives. She is guided only by the pursuit of the public interest and by providing fair and just outcomes for the constituents she serves, which now is not just the 21st district, but it's really the entire state. And so I think this is for a political process that has lost so much confidence with so many constituents and taxpayers through the years at all levels. I think this is exactly what we.
Let me follow up on this a little bit. How do you think she's going to get along with the governor, who is actually moving primarily into a more moderate position as the election unfolds?
So, from what I understand, the two of them regard each other with a great deal of respect. And of course, there's going to be healthy disagreement. That's the way it should be. The legislative branch, as Clay knows, because his father held that position, he was Speaker of the House from 87 to 93. The legislative branch is supposed to be an entirely separate, co-equal branch of the government, along with the executive and judicial branches. I think having that independence and diversity of thought is particularly important in a state where the Democrats have a supermajority in both chambers of the legislature. I don't want intellectual and philosophical homogeneity. I want to have some honest, heartfelt, vigorous, but respectful debates on issues that really do affect our economy, the fiscal well being of the state, and so much more. So I think she's going to bring that. I think the governor likes her. I think the governor genuinely respects her. I've been talking with several members of his team since all this came about. And given some of the alternatives, and I don't think I'm talking out of school, the governor and Ben Barnes have not always seen eye to eye on things, mostly over a couple of personal things. And the governor and C.T. Wilson had a couple of dust ups last year, such as when C.T. put the governor's beer and wine legislation in the drawer and it never again saw the light of day. And the way he did it was kind of brusque and it rubbed some people on the second floor the wrong way. So I think that given some of the alternatives could have been, I think the governor sees this as a healthy outcome. Certainly, the Democratic majority sees this as a very, very positive resolution. I think even the Republicans, who are in the distinct minority, but there's still 39 of them, so their views do count. I think they're going to see in this speaker someone with whom they can talk and reason and have honest conversations with. They will feel as if they've been heard, even if she ultimately decides to go in a different direction.
Well, sadly, Clayton, the Republicans have not had the opportunity to figure out who will be the new speaker for some time. But I'm just kind of curious whether her selection would be somewhat to the advantage of the Hale campaign, for example, or for the statewide election later on.
Well, I think that depends on how you look at it. I've seen, like Len mentioned, my father was speaker late 80s, early 90s. Then we had, Cass Taylor, Michael Bush, and Adrian Jones. And I think they were a fulcrum of moderation between the extreme wings of not only the Democratic Party, but with the Republicans in the House also. With Adrian Jones, although I didn't agree with everything she did know how to run that House. And I said before, the past year or two, I think she was the most powerful person in Annapolis, even more powerful than the governor. She was setting the agenda. Adrian Jones brought an institutional and I think incremental approach to being speaker. She respected the institution. She was measured in what she did. She spoke out against some of the spending proposals where she was saying, hey, guys, we got to be cautious with this. I don't know. I've never met Ms. Peña-Melnyk. I think that I've read everything that I could read about her online, and I certainly respect Len's opinion that she has to be a smart person and a gifted politician to ascend to being Speaker of the House. As a Republican, I got this gut feeling that although I don't think Speaker Jones was a moderate by any means, that we're going to go further to the left. She was chairman of the Health and Government Operations Committee, where she had backed expansion of the Medicaid programs and supported spending in those types of areas, social spending. We're coming into a tight budget. Governor Moore is trying to portray himself as a moderate. My take on this is session is already choreographed where there's this budget deficit. It's huge. The governor's going to come out and say, hey, guys, we got to be careful on spending. Let's look to cut programs and rein in spending so we don't have to raise taxes again. The legislature is going to do what the legislature does. They have the new powers over governance of the budget. They're going to perfunctory, I think, look and say, we really can't cut all these programs. The blueprint has to stand. The expansion of Medicaid has to stand. We don't have a choice but to go back to the well and raise taxes again. Governor Moore is going to say, I don't agree with this, but the legislature is going to get their way and they're really going to carry the water for the governor. And I think the new speaker probably will do that, although I reserve judgment on how strong she is and how she runs her chamber till a later date. I want to prejudge her and her performing way because that is a tough job.
Well, thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.